That blue wave got Donald Trump out here tripping. This is hood politics. Let's get into it. Man, that's tough. You know it's bad when even the news can't find a polite way to describe your downfall. But here's the thing. This ain't just about Trump losing elections. This is about the country finally waking up from a This is about the country finally waking up from that 4-year reality show that we all got stuck watching. People are tired, bruh. Tired of the chaos being marketed as leadership. When every press conference turns into a Twitter thread, folks start realizing the entertainment value ain't worth the price tag. So yeah, this blue wave was really a representative of a we're tired of your mess wave.
Under the headline, Trump really was on the ballot. The Journal editorial says Mr. Trump was on the ballot, not literally, but nonetheless, as the main motivating force behind a dominating Democratic turnout. Winning Democratic candidates for governor in New Jersey and Virginia linked their opponents to Mr. Trump, driving Democratic voters to the polls and erasing the GOP gains in 2024 among Hispanics, Black men, and independents. The result was a much bigger Democratic triumph than polls predicted.
That's right. And the crazy part, Trump not even on the ballot, but still the biggest campaign ad against himself. You know you done messed up when your presence alone motivates the other side to vote in record numbers. And the Wall Street Journal wasn't wrong. He was on the ballot symbolically. Every policy, every rant, every time he blamed somebody else, people remembered. That's what happens when your politics are built around personality instead of progress. You can't cry rigged forever when the people just ain't rocking with you no more.
And Donald Trump's bright idea today, during his politically suicidal government shutdown, is to partially shut down the air traffic control system in this country, with the Thanksgiving travel surge approaching. Every day, Donald Trump finds a new way to weaken himself and weaken his party politically while making life in this country worse for millions of Americans. And now he wants to make it much worse for the millions of Americans who hope to go home for Thanksgiving this year.
See, this is where I just gotta shake my head, bruh. It's Thanksgiving, the one time of the year Americans will tolerate each other at the airport. Well, barely. And you're talking about shutting down the control towers? That's not leadership, that's self-sabotage. You can't tell me you care about the economy while grounding planes and stranding families. At this point, it's like he's allergic to good timing. Every decision feels like it's made out of spite instead of strategy. That's why folks call it a suicidal presidency, because the only person Trump seems to be fighting harder than the Democrats is himself.
And just 12 hours after Donald Trump's electoral humiliation last night, in the United States Supreme Court this morning, Donald Trump was humiliated again when the Supreme Court, including the justices who Donald Trump appointed, ripped apart the biggest and stupidest policy lie of the Trump second term. At 11:22 a.m., when Neil Katyal rose to address the Supreme Court, the first sentence he spoke contained only 3 words: tariffs are taxes. And there it was, the pure economic truth and policy truth about tariffs that the founders of this government knew, and that every president has known and every member of Congress has known until Donald Trump started lying about tariffs.
Now, this is the part that exposes the whole game. For years, Trump's been out here telling people that tariffs were making China pay. Remember that? We're bringing money back from China. No, sir. The money came straight out of our pockets. The Supreme Court didn't even have to debate it. They all agreed. Tariffs are taxes. Americans pay them. That means every time you bought a car part, a phone, or some cheap headphones off of Amazon, that little price hike, that was your America's first tax. He sold it as a flex on foreign countries, but really it was a hidden bill on the middle class. That's the kind of economic con that sounds tough on stage, but real weak in real life.
Donald Trump himself had been threatening to attend the Supreme Court hearing, presumably as some kind of intimidation tactic. But he chose in the end to send his completely unintimidating court jesters instead. Donald Trump's lawyer, arguing in favor of his illegal and unconstitutional tariffs today, had a much more difficult time than the Trump tariff enablers do when they appear in very friendly TV interviews that they submit to. The Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary have an open invitation to come on this program and discuss tariffs for the full hour or any amount of time that they choose. But they haven't shown up. Today, they had to sit there silently when Neil Katyal said tariffs are taxes. And they had to sit there silently for all 2 hours and 40 minutes in which Donald Trump's lawyer never said that tariffs are not taxes. He didn't try to make that impossible point. It was simply an accepted fact of the case by all of the justices. Tariffs are taxes. 3 minutes after Neil Katyal's first sentence saying tariffs are taxes, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said, quote, "The tariffs are a tax," end quote. That is how fully accepted that fact was during this argument. Chief Justice Roberts said, yes, sure, the tariffs are a tax, and that's a core power of Congress.
See, this is the part where even conservative judges had to look around like, wait, what are we doing? You got the man's own appointees, Gersh, Barrett, Roberts, basically saying, nah, that's not how it works. The founders designed the system in this way on purpose. The power to tax belongs to Congress because that's supposed to be the people's check on the president. That's democracy 101. But Trump's been running America like a family business. He's the boss. Everybody else is just staff. And the wild thing is he doesn't even see how dangerous this mindset is. If one man can just decide what's a tax and who pays it, that's not a republic, that's a monarchy in a red tie.
The Trump-appointed Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch showed how a newly invented presidential tariff power could become a nightmare scenario for Republicans.
Could the president impose a 50% tariff on gas-powered cars and auto parts to deal with the unusual and extraordinary threat from abroad of climate change?
It's very likely that could be done. That's very likely.
I think that has to be the logic of your view.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the logic of his view. That is exactly what the Trump argument is. And in her final comments to the Solicitor General of Oregon, who was also arguing against the tariffs today, Justice Sonia Sotomayor emphasized why the power to raise revenue through tariffs and taxes was deliberately given to Congress by the authors of the Constitution.
Now that was a mic drop question because he basically said, okay, if Trump can claim emergency powers on tariffs, what's stopping a future president from doing the same for climate change? And the Trump lawyer said, yes, he agreed. That's the scary part. They're so focused on giving Trump unlimited power, they didn't realize they were building a weapon that could be used against them next time. That's the problem with short-term politics. They don't think of consequences, they think in revenge. Today's power grab is tomorrow's regret.
That's a good point. I think what we're forgetting here is a very fundamental point, which is the Constitution is structured so that if I'm going to be asked to pay for something as a citizen, that it's through a bill that is generated through Congress and the president has the power to veto it or not. But I'm not going to be taxed unless both houses, the executive and the legislature, have made that choice, correct?
That's exactly right.
That is exactly right. And it was a very bad day for the lame duck, Donald Trump, now the humiliated duck, Donald Trump, at the United States Supreme Court.
That right there, that's the heart of it all. The founders didn't build this country on trust. They built it on accountability. If you're going to take money out of my pocket, it better be through the system I voted for. And Trump broke that unwritten rule of democracy. He started treating America's money like it was his own campaign fund. That's why this Supreme Court case matters. It's not just about tariffs. It's about power. Who gets to decide when we pay and why? And when you skip that process, when you think you're above it, that's when you stop being a president and start acting like a king. Now, at the end of the day, this whole thing ain't just about economics. It's about ego. Trump finds new ways to turn being a president into the flex, but the truth always catches up. The Supreme Court didn't care about his showmanship. They cared about the law. And when every justice, even the ones you pick, tell you you're wrong, that's not deep state conspiracy. That's just consequences. So while he's out here talking about America's first, the reality is America's the one paying first and paying the most. If you still think tariffs make America rich, go ahead and check your grocery bill. The proof ain't in the politics, it's in the price tags. Drop a dollar bill in the comments if you're tired of the president selling pride while you paying the price. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're breaking down all the political performances they hope you don't read in the fine print. This is hood politics. And around here, we don't do right or left. We do right or wrong. Make sure you subscribe, share, and come back for more.